months. He reached out to me very recently to do the session. So feel free to let me know if there are things which you would like to see and I'm not doing it right now. And I'm happy to write them up either in a blog or do a video blog later on and share those details. So this is sort of like a first kind of a summit I'm looking at, which is about only the cloud security. I have not seen a lot of things happening around cloud security, so really appreciate this the community effort. So I'm pretty sure you know that, and since this is the fourth session of the day, you might have seen that once you submit your feedback and also submit your session code properly, you will be eligible to win some of the exciting prizes. And I'm pretty sure that these prizes are great technical advancement of the things which we use, and it will help us a lot. So it's including that we are learning and we are encouraged to participate. And I'm pretty sure this is lunchtime, 12:30 to 1:30 for you. In India, I'm located in Australia, so it's like a tea time, 5 p.m. here. But we know that right now there's so many things happening in the world, and we are trying to do our best to support them. This is a great initiative, which I like here, that if everybody could contribute their part, there will be no one sleeping with empty stomach. So if you could donate something, that will be really appreciated. So I'm here. So I will focus around the Microsoft 365 security and monitoring and how we could leverage Microsoft Graph API to do that. Now, this is my photo. That may be a little old photo, so I may look older than that photo. But this is pretty much about me. Like Microsoft MVP, I am a group manager by the title in my organization, and my focus is around the data protection. So we are driving security around data protection, application security, cloud and infrastructure security, and multiple streams. And what we're going to do is we're going to separate out and first understand as what can live in the Microsoft Graph API and how the security part lives within the Graph API. So let me introduce the agenda first and separate the points which I'm going to cover. I'm pretty sure you know Microsoft Graph API, but I'm just going to bring that sort of a refresher here. Those who are new to the Microsoft Graph API or don't know about much of the security part of the Graph API so that they are aware of what it really is. Then I would like to talk about the security integration solutions. So you know that there are so many products out in the market which run independently, does not integrate with Microsoft. But with the help of Microsoft Graph API, how they can look upon or hook upon their products with the M365 system. And it's not just about the third-party softwares. You can also build your own applications using something similar as an approach. Then I will go and talk about what entities live in the Microsoft Graph API. And I will correlate this back to the introduction of the Graph API. You know that in Microsoft 365, there are Exchange, OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint, and so many endpoints available. Now, previously, if I go before what was before Microsoft Graph API, every product has its own schema, has its own authentication way, has its own entities and models. It was very troublesome for us as a developer, as an administrator, or as an ISV to write programs against M365, which can go across the products. Because security is something which goes across the board and needs to have that consistency. And that's where Microsoft Graph, when it was uh, uh, basically born, the idea of to simplify that schema across the products and provide one unified way to communicate with M365. You will see that how the Microsoft Graph has simplified that approach. And that's the reason that we can use the security part of the APIs from Microsoft Graph to talk to different entities in the Microsoft 365 security and compliance products. Then I'm going to do a demo, and I will give a flavor about how the Graph API can work, where you can use some of the connectors and products live in the premium segment. We may not be able to look upon them, but I will be able to share those details. So if you have Power Platform premium connectors, or you have other expertise in the programming, you could leverage these information pieces and build your own application. And I'm available on LinkedIn, so you can look upon my LinkedIn URL from the profile of from the Cloud Summit page, and feel free to send me the questions, or feel free to connect me over the LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help further from there. Cool, great. So, any question before we go on further? Okay, no question, silence. I know a lot of us will be having lunch. So if you have questions, you can use the chat window. I have opened the chat window on the site so that I can see the questions as soon as it comes, and I will be able to take that up question immediately. So first, let's start with the introduction of the Microsoft Graph API and security part of it. A couple of the places you will hear the name called as Intelligent Security Graph rather than having a Microsoft Graph Security API. They are the terminology interchanged, and you could use either way. The intelligent security graph is called as intelligent security graph because it is connecting a lot of dots and provide that intelligence on top of the information itself. So it is sort of a built-in AI and ML within the Graph API, which provides that communication. So I will brief about what Microsoft 365 platform is and how the Graph API works. This is very similar diagram which you might have seen on a lot of slides in Microsoft. As this is around security, so you might have seen things around the team security, SharePoint security, or maybe in the application development area of the M365. So if you look upon here, there are different ways as how the Microsoft 365 platform can be defined. So the things which come from the platform, like your SharePoint, Teams, Portal, timeline in the Windows devices, Microsoft Search, documents, conversation in Teams. The other end side of the word is around the application extensions using web apps, web parts, your console applications, workflow automation using Power Platform, and analytics using Power BI. Now, the Graph API provides that seamless extension across the board. And why we call Microsoft 365? Because it's not just your M365 platform, it's also the Windows 10. And if you see the timeline in your Windows 10 machine, if you have one, you will see that the timeline of a user can be accessed to the Graph API. You could send notifications to the Windows 10 devices using the Microsoft Graph API. So it's not just the cloud platform, it's also your device platform, and then your EMS, which is the enterprise mobility and security side. So it goes across the board. You can pull the data, you can push the data, you can connect third-party data with the M365 data so that you can make more meaningful decisions. And you might have heard the name called Viva, the Microsoft Viva platform, which is coming, which is where it is allowing you to bring your maybe let's say ServiceNow data and look upon with the M365 data and create more better dashboard, better learning experience for the users. So you will see a lot of things happening, and the Microsoft Graph API leverages the AI and ML from Azure and provide the seamless experience as information intelligence to you on the doorstep by one API call. So that's how the graph sits in. I'm pretty sure you have seen this slide. Anybody new to the Microsoft Graph experience, or this is something first time they are hearing? You can raise your hand, or you can just type yes, first time, or things in the chat window. Okay. Feel free to let me know if you have any question. Okay, so like this Microsoft Graph API has been for almost like 4 years now. I'm pretty sure I remember my couple of the earliest talks around the Microsoft Graph API in 2017. So it has matured a lot. Good question, Sandy. So one doesn't have to know how to code using the Microsoft Graph API, and I will tell you how. because there are multiple ways, not just by the coding, that how you can consume this information. So you could leverage your existing skills and expertise to connect to the data and get your data. I will come to that question more in detail as how when we reach the slide where it says what ways we can connect the data in the Graph API. So I'm moving next on the Yep. So Graph API is yes. So let me cover this question and then move next. So Microsoft Graph API leverages industry standard REST API, and they are using OAuth and OpenID Connect protocols for authentication. They are again is industry standard. So anybody who has previously worked in the dev space knows about it. But those who have not used as a developer writing code or anything, there are SDKs available. So it's not really that you have to know the API calling. You can use the SDK. Also, apart from that, there are options available in the PowerShell also. So if you have been doing coding in the PowerShell for automating your infrastructure, you could use the same way to connect with the Graph API. The other way where we are talking Power Platform and all, there is a Power Platform has a premium connector for the Microsoft Graph API. You can use that as well. So there are multiple ways as how you can use it. I'm not sure how many of you will know Azure Notebooks, which uses the Jupyter Notebooks. You could connect your Microsoft Graph API from the Jupyter Notebooks as well. So it has a wide variety and wide options as how you can consume this information. Now, part of the Microsoft Graph API is a so Microsoft Graph API is like in a big umbrella which covers the whole M365 platform, which is M365 products and services, your Windows 10, and EMS, which is Enterprise Mobility and Security. Now, Microsoft Graph Security API is a very specific area where it covers the EMS side of the world. Still, it can connect to your devices and provide security options through the Intune and all. So it also covers the Intune part, but we are focusing right now on the EMS side. Now, if you look upon here, as I mentioned, that there are different ways as how you can extend your M365 platform. And at the same time, when you are working through those scenarios, you will come across that you are deploying a web app, which is using the Graph API on Azure. And then you need to provide the network protection on the either the VMs which you deploy in the Azure, or you have to provide the protection on your web APIs and web services or web app in the Azure. Same time when you are, as I talked about, the devices who are trying to connect to the M365 platform, they are Azure AD registered. You are providing the Microsoft Defender for endpoint, which used to be called as Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So you are providing the endpoint security. The other thing is, in a lot of big organizations, they look upon a SIEM platform and SOAR platform. Now, this could be like a one tool which can do both, or there could be two tools for it. So SIEM is your information aggregation tool where you pull the logs from all the multiple sources. They come into like a data warehousing system. And then on top of that data warehousing system, you create your dashboards. The SOAR part is the solution area, automation area, where you look upon these information, you triage those information and say that these are the alerts in high, medium, low severity. And based on the high alerts, you would like to automate some of the mitigation part of those threats. And that's where your SOAR starts connect with your SIEM. And then SIEM, this SOAR part can connect to your ITSM, which is like your ServiceNow or ticket or tooling or any other system where it can see the threat. It is a high severity threat. It goes and creates a ticket and assign it to you or to your support team or the SOC team, basically. It's not called as support team. It's mostly called as SOC team, the software operations control team. And you assign it, they start working on that mitigation, and then they go and triage that case. Now, Microsoft has something called Azure Sentinel. I'm not sure if you have heard that name previously. So it provides the SIEM and SOAR capability both together, and then you will be able to use your logic apps within it. to provide this the automation capability. The other part is the information protection. So we know that we generate files, we create files, we receive email, we send email, we create Teams messages, we receive messages, and all that information is also important. So we have to protect that data also by leveraging MIP, AIP, DLP, whatever that name you call it, using those technologies. Now, if you look here, the middle layer, which is the Microsoft Graph layer. So it uses your REST API, your SDK, your one authentication with Microsoft Azure AD, and it can read your alerts. So as I mentioned, that when there are alerts happening, you could see them in your security portal. If you go to your M365 security portal, you can see all these alerts, and these alerts are ingested into the same platform. So even before it can go into your SIEM, and you could do from there, you can start straight away as soon as the alert comes into the platform. So Graph API can talk to those alerts, understand high priority alerts, and manage them. Now, the other thing is the secure score. Now, secure score is also a way to understand how much security has been implemented and how you can improve that security. The other thing is the indicator. What we call it is as the threat indicators. That means based on the ways the users are working, do you see there could be a threat being introduced in the environment by these users or by devices? The next is the action. So based on the alerts, based on the indicators, you could start some actions and mitigate those threats. And Microsoft Graph API can manage all these things as an automation. There are other APIs which you can build. Now, where do we receive this information? We are talking the M365 platform. Now, this information could come from any of these Microsoft products or your third-party products also. Now, what happens, like say, in big organizations, as I have seen so far, they may be setting up an Azure environment. They may go and set up Palo Alto network and firewalls. They may go and set up third-party systems like Symantec or anything. Also, at the same time, I have seen a couple of the customers go in the other cloud environment. Still, they are in the cloud, but they are not in the Microsoft cloud. And this information across the board, whether it's Defender ATP, which we call now, you call now Defender for Endpoint, your Defender for the Office 365, or Defender for Identity, your AIP, MCAS, and also there is something called as coming up now Azure Purview, which allow you to go and talk to the board in the Microsoft 365 and also outside the Microsoft 365. So for example, if I am creating my database in the Amazon S3 and I have my application sitting in the Amazon environment, but I am classifying my information in my MIP, I have Azure Purview, a tool which will go and take my classification from my Microsoft platform, look upon the data in the Amazon S3, and go and classify the information in the Amazon platform. Or it could be Google platform. And that's where you will see that even though your data is segregated across the clouds, but you will be able to use the Microsoft Graph API to talk to the Azure Purview product and understand how the severity of that information is. And if you lose that information, what could be the impact? So you could see upon if you are saving highly confidential data in non-Microsoft cloud, and what are those mitigation options available in those non-Microsoft cloud. So you can decide that. And that is the beauty of the Graph Security API, that you could correlate. This is the biggest thing. Correlate that information at one place. And it's pretty much like this. I'm hearing one sentence here. I'm hearing the second sentence from someone else. I'm hearing the third one from someone else. And if I can't put that sentences in a sequence or in a logical order, I can't make out the story. The same way, if you hear these threats, alerts, notification from different sources, but if you can't use the Graph API to make a judgment that this is the real problem, you can't solve that problem. So this is where the Graph Security API can help us. Any question before I go? This is the brief, and we have spent a good amount of time, so I wanted to make sure I cover the things. Okay. Feel free to put in the question in the window, and I will get them and then answer them while I continue. So as I mentioned, and I talked about these scenarios. So very first thing is you could leverage Graph API for consolidating and correlating your alerts from multiple sources, and that provides you the contextual data to unlock some internal investigation and insights about it. Now, based on that insight, you could use your Logic Apps or Power Automate to automate those security remediations, reporting, or workflows. It could go to ITSM tool as well. Then you send those threat indicators to Microsoft, and then sometime you need that report from Microsoft to see this file is safe or this file is not safe. So things like what happens in MDE, the MDE does a talking two-way and understand if this is a threat or not, because it can't download the definition every time the whole database on your environment endpoint. It has to go and talk to the service. Based on that, you can invoke actions. So whether the user can download a file, user can't download a file. If it is malicious file, the user downloaded into the OneDrive, you stop the syncing of OneDrive to protect it. So based on that, the Microsoft 365 can make that invoke call. And then you, based upon that, you go and then look upon your proactive risk management system so that you can make sure that next time it won't happen for other users. Yep, sure. I have that, which is the next thing. So the next thing is to understand how do we connect to the API. So as I mentioned, if you have been through the developer experience, you could use the C# code, JavaScript code, and other code options to write it. You can also use your PowerShell. So it's not that it's just the C# code. It's also available in the PowerShell. It's also available in the Logic app and Power Automate. You can connect using the Power BI reporting as well. And this is one of my favorite area where what I generally do with customers is I look upon their secure score and pull out that report in the Power BI, and it doesn't take so long. And I can read that data, I can articulate that data very well back to the customer that this is what your secure score looks like and how to improve upon it. As I mentioned, if you're keen going deeper around the notebooks, Azure notebooks, you can use the Jupyter notebooks to connect as well. These are the reference links which are already here. So you could start from here. And there is a Git repo, which I will show you during the demo time, that how do you find those samples which are ready to go. You can download them, repurpose them also, and start working. The important thing with the Graph API is that it uses Azure AD for authentication, and you need to register an application in your Azure AD applications. And once you have done that, you could use any API, basically, literally in the graph. So it's very simple and very straightforward. There are ways also you can see more details in the graph page, API documentation page, but it's not that hard for anyone who has not done the coding previously to start writing the code. It's just the flexibility area, whether it's a PowerShell, whether it's a C#, whether it's Power Platform, or where you would like to start with. I will be sharing this slide later with the team, so you will be able to download it, and all these links are available. So Graph API is automatically available for every customer or partner or individual who is using a M365 tenant. It's not part of the Azure anywhere. It runs automatically in the Microsoft Cloud, and it's all about the context of your login. So as soon as you log in using your authentication, the Graph API is like a SaaS product, and it will connect to your tenant and talk to your tenant directly. You don't have to do any setup configuration in Azure. It's ready to go. I will show you that in the demo time. Great. Now let's talk about some of the solutions area where we can go in and talk about it. So So as I mentioned, I will not go deeper because I have covered a lot of things around this. So you can either use your existing tooling and technology. So either you can use your Power Platform, or you can use your uh, Logic apps or notebooks to do this. or you can use it through the Microsoft partners. So there is a way that how the Microsoft partners or ISVs. And now there is a big difference between a partner and ISV. Everybody is called as Microsoft partners. Now ISVs are independent software vendors who write products and deploy these products via some monetization way to customers. The partners, a lot of partners are in the service model where you which is called consulting basically. When you go to the customer, understand the problem, provide a sort of a solution, and then you are paid for it. You don't develop or define products mostly in that case as a service model. So a lot of partners who are in the product space like Palo Alto uh, and Symantec and IBM QRadar, uh, Splunk, if I'm not sure if you have heard the Splunk, which is a SIEM and SOAR platform. So all these are building the connectors. And I have a table next where you will see that how these connectors are available, and you can use the Microsoft Graph API in third parties built by these partners to bring that information. And Microsoft also have built some connectors available, so you can use them as well. This is the table here. So for SIEM platform, which I was talking, which is the security information platform where you aggregate a lot of things and then make a sort of a decision out of it. They are Splunk, QRadar. I remember McAfee was having an article also where they are starting to use the Microsoft Graph API. So you can look upon that, how you will be able to pull this M365 data into these third-party systems. Custom connection to the Graph API. So there are multiple ways as how you can do it. You not necessarily a client ID and secret you need. You could use also certificate-based authentication. So depending on as what you are trying to do, you could use either client ID and secret key or secret certificate, or you could use the client ID and certificate. Sometime depending on the scenario, for example, if you are creating an end user application, you may want to create a end user permission delegation. If you are building some application which is like a daemon application where it will run itself, you might want to consider the application permission delegation. So Graph API provides a couple of ways of the application delegation, and depending on the scenario, you could pick one as what suits your best. ITSM, the ServiceNow, I'm pretty sure you might have heard the tool called as ServiceNow, which is about ticket management, knowledge management, which is all about the IT services and management tool, which provides organizations a way to manage their incidents, problem, and their resolution, track down those SLAs and all that. So Microsoft Graph can integrate with ITSM tool also. So for example, if you get a high severity alert that, let's say, somebody is trying to use a super user name and password from a IP address which has been not known to the environment previously, it will generate a high severity alert. As soon as you see those high severity alert, the Graph API from either Splunk, QRadar, or Sentinel can go and create a ticket in your ITSM and maybe raise it as a P1 ticket, like a priority one or high severity ticket, and immediately somebody can start working on it. So it's basically help us to mitigate the end-to-end life cycle. SOAR platform, which I was talking, that can provide the automation to manage these sort of alerts. So as soon as you see that high severity alert coming for the super user account, you raise the ticket same time so that somebody can investigate. But you can use this SOAR capability using Logic Apps or Microsoft Flow, which is Power Automate, you to go and disable that super user account for maybe, like, say, 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever, so that what will happen, the user who is trying to attack the environment using the super user credentials, they will not be able to do it further. So basically you are mitigating the threat there, but then somebody will know that this has happened as it is logged into the ITSM tool, and then they can come back and work upon it and then fix that problem. As I mentioned, the Power BI and PowerShell are also available, so you can look upon that and work out with that scenario as well. Now the important part, the entities. Before I go further on the entities, any other question from anyone? Am I going too fast? I'm okay on the speed. Shall I talk more about the scenarios and details? And feel free to ask questions if you have things around the scenarios or problems you might have faced recently. Okay, I will continue. So as I mentioned in the brief overview of the Graph API, the idea of bringing the Graph API was to bring a unified way to connect to the M365 platform and also bring the uniformity in the schema, or basically generate the schema as required and don't complicate it. Now, in the Graph API security part of it, you have high level 5 entities which provide you the ways to work with the EMS platform. A lot of these are in beta environment. What that means is some of these are available in V1.0, which is general available, so you could use them, but you could use a product or your internal service which could use the beta APIs. But beta APIs are not production supported, so you will not be able to deploy in a customer environment. You could use it till it is working. If it breaks, you have to fix it and then use it. But the thing is, this is all still in progress, and we hope that a lot of other security things will be available in the Graph API sooner, so that we can look upon more details and bring more better solutions in the market. Now, I will go in a brief description about what those entities are. So first of all, what is an alert means really? We are talking that, okay, security alerts are coming, threats, intelligent alerts are coming, the threat indicators are coming. What really this matters? What really happens in the environment? So based on the scenario you configure in your environment, you could define alerts to come in different ways. There could be alerts which are of sometimes just information type of alerts. You know it will happen, and you can safely ignore them. Then there are alerts of like a low, medium, and high priority. How the system defines the low, medium, high priority is by using the AI and ML behind the scene. And these are the alerts when system detect, sorry. So these are the alerts or the notification which is defined by the system when there is a sort of a incident or anything happens which is not normal. Now, for example, as I mentioned, that you are still working in, let's say, everybody is working in India, and I know that my staff works in India. Everybody logs into my system will have the IP address coming from India. Now, suddenly, if my staff, without saying that they are going on leave to maybe somewhere else in the country world, and suddenly I see a login coming for a staff from a different IP address, and that means the system will detect that as an maybe an high severity alert, because that's not a usual, because system has been reading that this particular user has been logging in from this sort of a IP ranges. And so any log on within those IP ranges comes as an alert, but safely ignored. But as soon as it comes from an alert where the IP address is totally different, systems will create an alert. And depending on the user account, if it is a normal user, it could be going as a medium alert. But if it is like a administrative account which is trying to log in, then it could be the high severity alert. These alert severity is depending on the impact it can create. If a user comes in, they maybe try to do a ticket golden pass or a handshake method to propagate within the environment. But if a administrative user account is trying to breach in or break in, then he could be able to access a lot of things which may impact my whole organization. And that's where those high severity alerts need to be looked upon on priority. Now, how these alerts are being generated in the system are various ways. As we know, we have so many products in the security, which is Azure Security Center, our Azure AD Identity Protection, MCAS, which is Cloud App Security. then our Defender products, then we have the information protection products as AIP or MIP, then we have Azure Sentinel, which is the SIEM platform. So all of these could trigger an alert. Sentinel, as I mentioned, it's a SIEM and SOAR platform. It generally consume these alerts, but what will happen, and sometimes it can happen depending on how you configure it, you could correlate multiple medium priority alerts, and then you see, okay, a user is trying to come in and access the SharePoint, and then suddenly he's trying to access a financial SharePoint site, which the user doesn't have to do anything with it. And then somebody is trying to access a shared location of some other user. And this is where, when you correlate it, seems like somebody is trying to propagate through the environment using the user credential. And then the Sentinel could, as a SIEM platform, can correlate all this information and present a high severity alert that there is something happening and somebody is trying to break in the environment, and you have to look upon it. And that's where a normal user account alert from a medium severity could become a high severity alert as well. So this is where we look upon and we read that information. A lot of tools now are being unified in the Microsoft Word. So you will see the MDE portal becoming the sort of like a security center within the M365 space, and you could see a lot of alerts, read alerts from there. If you would like to query these alerts, you have to learn something called as KQL, Kusto query language, because it's like a SQL sort of a language where you can query this. It will help us to understand the structure of the data and how we can work upon it. Keeping time ticking, I will keep going. So information protection. Right now, there is a limitation as what we can do with the information protection using the sensitivity labels. Let me be very clear about the labels here. So we are talking sensitivity labels, which are the MIP labels in the security portal. The Graph API cannot read Azure information protection labels. So if you have used AIP in the previous word, and if I remember, this year was the sort of a timeline to move from AIP to MIP, and you can manage only MIP using the Graph API. And based on those labels applied to the email files, there are threat assessments available as well. But still, there are not much APIs available on the threat assessment. We will see as how we can read the labels and how we can update the labels if we have to. But right now, it's more around the get and list. We don't have a lot of APIs available to create these in the graph. But I will talk about, if you need more details, as how we can use PowerShell to manage this information protection for labels. Threat indicators are very similar to the alerts, but they are known as threats because it is related to the scenarios as where it is trying to compromise the environment, and they are indicators of the compromise. Alerts, as I mentioned, alerts is for everything, whether it's like a safe thing, actions, information, others. But threat indicators are more on the things where it is getting into a compromised space and you have to work upon it. Security actions. So as I mentioned, like when there is a indicate, whereas there is a threat indicator and it creates an alert in the system, you have to work upon it, and these actions are available to mitigate that threat. And this is where you will start working on that particular provider, whether it's Azure Security Center or whether it's a MDE or whether it's AIP, and then you take appropriate action to mitigate that threat. The security actions are available in the Graph API, and you can work upon it. I will share that location where you can read more details about it. And this is where you can work in the Power Platform or automation platform to work as a security actions on the alerts so that you can mitigate these alerts even before a human can take action. Security score. This is very interesting space. It's like I'm pretty sure everybody has gone to the college, and in the childhood time, we used to have the scorecard coming from the college and say that, hey, get your parents' signature from it and submit back that these are the marks. Microsoft created something similar as a secure score here. So what it happens actually, Microsoft goes and uses its CIS based framework to analyze the security things configured in the environment. And then Microsoft comes back and say that, hey, based on your work, you got a scorecard as of maybe let's say 200 out of 900. And the total numbers depend on what products are you using or the license you have. What this will help somebody to say that, okay, I am in a banking sector and my scorecard is low comparing my other competitors. It doesn't say which competitor, but it will sort of give an industry scorecard. So I have to work upon my gaps, fill those gaps, and then increase my secure score. So this way you can basically take step by step actions and improve your security of the tenant. um, this is also a way to find out your gaps in the security configuration. So it's very easy for any partner or ISV to start working with Secure Score and then understand the actions automation. Cool. That's the interesting part, demo. Before I jump into the demo and bring the screen, feel free to let me know if you have any other question on this. Okay. On the demo side, I was thinking to list down more into the information protection. So a lot of things which are here are around the evaluating application, the classification results, and removal and extract level. These are sort of like, I have not seen much of the organizations doing this job. It's more around understanding the labels and how you get that information. So we will look at this, and we will also look at some other graph API calls, and we will compare them with the real world information. So let me bring my screen. I'm just going to bring my screen here for the demo. Yeah. Okay, cool. So before I go and jump in and do a demo, I would like to talk about these important things. So, so Microsoft is trying to, as I mentioned, Microsoft is trying to unify. Let me see if there was a question. Okay. Oh. So Microsoft is trying to unify the space and create a security uh, location and a compliance location. There is a big difference, but very thin line between a security and compliance work of the Microsoft. So this is like becoming like a security portal, which is used to be like a Defender, but a Defender is integrated, and you will see everything pretty much over here. So you can see your incident and alerts coming up here. And as I mentioned, alerts are for information for high severity, low severity, medium severity information as well. So it will go and do that configuration. Now, hunting is a place where which I was mentioning, the KQL. So it's just going and loading everything up freshly. So the KQL is like a SQL style query language. And when you get so many alerts from so many sources, you would like to correlate the alerts and get the data out so that you can make a call out of it. So the advanced hunting is a place where you can go. Oh, sure. I will put all these links in the PPT. They are already there, and you will be able to look upon them as well. So and code, I'm going to the code as well. So here right now it's where you can do the advanced hunting and mitigate those alerts. This is all within the M365 space. This is where you will look upon the secure score. So which is saying that, okay, my score is 23.33, and then it says there is an opportunity to go and improve this score, and these are the actions which I have to do. So yeah, I have to enable MFA for administrators. I have to make sure that they have MFA. I have to define policy to block legacy authentication, and so on. Now, if I compare my score of 23.33 with my competitors, anonymous competitors, they have a 31.49 score. That means I am lagging behind than my competitors, and I can improve on. This is how the improvement actions look like. So you can see that what's completed, which is where I'm getting my marks, and which are to be completed, and that's where I will get full marks. This is like sort of a trend as when you worked upon and how your score is increased. Then this is around the email and SharePoint things where you will see the thread tracker. So it goes and look upon the threads across the board. Oh, sure. Sorry about the zoom in. I'm on a 27-inch monitor. I can zoom in definitely. I was about to think and I forgot to answer. Thanks, Priya. So this is the thread tracker where you can see the queries and you can run these queries straight away and you can define them as well. So if you believe that, okay, you have a scenario in your organization, whether it's a financial organization or a retail or a government health or whatever it looks like, you can create your custom detection rules. So what will happen, it will start monitoring every alert and create those things. And then you can see if there is threat, there is alerts which you have to work upon and monitor. So it's all over here. And a lot of things, as mentioned, the learning side are also getting integrated. So this is where the new Microsoft Viva platform, which allows the learning thing, will also embed and allow you to work upon it also. So right now, if you see details you would like to go through, there are so many sessions available from Microsoft. You can read them through. And they are covering every product here if you would like to see. It's very important for administrators to understand, okay, if I have to do this configuration, how do I do it? Sorry, I was just reading the text there in the chat window. So a lot of time we don't know if I switch on this particular option, what will happen. And this is where you can see those information. Policy rules, audit reports, everything is sort of in the Defender here as a portal, and which is the security portal. So you could look upon all the things, and you can generate these reports in the Power BI also and share publicly if you have to. Now, this is the compliance page. So as I mentioned, Microsoft is segregating the security and compliance, and you can see that information. Now, on a compliance side also, there is a compliance score. And similar to the previous score where you have apps and collaboration, this is also going in and looking upon your the information across the board and say that, okay, how you have been creating information, saving information, classifying and protecting it. And you can see like this is my demo tenant, so I have not done anything in it. It's all zero here, but it is a great way of doing the things. Now, for example, a lot of organizations says I want to be compliant with NIST framework, which is a public framework of security, or CIS. And then you would like to make sure that you are following those standards. So you could go to the compliance manager and say that I would like to understand the tenant score based on the NIST. And then it will give you the actions and results in detail, and you can follow those. So it's a very good place to go and look upon the things. So this is how the Microsoft happens. Now, let me come back to the data protection side where the AIP and MIP, which I was referring. So if you go to your portal.azure.com, you will be able to look upon something called Azure Information Protection. Right now, this page is read only because this is sort of like a deprecated page and it has reached. Now, what happens when this AIP was there and then Microsoft started the sensitivity level? Okay, let me finish this AIP and MIP, and I will come to that question. So Azure Information Protection and then sensitivity label. So it was like AIP is primarily used from Azure side, but doesn't go well in the M365 space. So Microsoft created something called as sensitivity labels or MIP in the portal. So this is the AIP page, but if you have to go and do the same thing, you have to go into your security portal, sorry, information protection. In the compliance portal, let me zoom in here as well.
Just a quick reminder, Ashish, sorry to interrupt you in between. We got 10 more minutes to get over the session. And also there are some of the questions I believe you have seen in the chat.
Yep,
So
yep, Lalit, thanks.
plan
I'm
accordingly.
keeping an eye on the clock and questions as well. So, so this is the information protection where, and you can see here, the AIP labels were synced into the MIP and you could see the MIP labels in the AIP. But what happens when you use the Graph API, you can see only the MIP labels. Here, I created only one label called as public file sensitivity. So when I go to my Graph Explorer, and when I try to hit this Graph API to find out my labels, let me bring that up. Yeah. Yeah. So when I bring my Graph API and try to read my labels, it goes to beta me information protection policy labels, and it brings only one public file sensitivity label, because this is the one which is created using the sensitivity labels or MIP. The rest are AIP. Now, if I want to do things more, I can manage things more here, and I can go and look upon specific detail for this particular label. So I have to pass labels slash label ID, and I can, okay, I can zoom in. Thanks for reminder. So I can zoom in and create this URL. And this can be dynamic URL because it's like a collection of the labels when you receive, and you can iterate through that collection of labels to find out more details about it. So you can see that the description, the color, the sensitivity, priority as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, the tooltip, and active or not, and parent hierarchy. This is where like we have been struggling to understand how the Graph API can work. And to work with the sensitivity labels, if you are looking to do things end to end as of now, rather than using a Graph API, there is something called as PowerShell script. And this is the whole documentation of an admin guide which talks about is how you can do this, and we have used this with the MIP, and this helps you to go in and create things from scratch. Right now, this all the commandlets are being transported into to the Graph API, but we don't have a timeline. And I don't have a timeline to say on behalf of Microsoft as when it will be available. There are a few more things. So one is the secure score in the Microsoft Graph. So let's look at the secure score. So when I hit a URL of beta security secure scores, as you know that the secure score is around the tenant score, your identity secure score, application, so on. So it will pull out all the secure scores which you have. So you could see here when I go and scroll it down. So you have your current active users, 8 across the tenant. Then your my current score across the tenant is 15, because it's not gonna read my secure score just from here. It's my, let me go here. It's my tenant level score. It's not the app or identity score individually. So as a combined score, my score is 15. But then I can go and read my individual scores for the details. So as a tenant, as an industry, as a total number of users, then I can see my scores where I have not actioned it and I have to action it. So basically, I can create a sort of a dashboard and create a sort of a report in quick 2 minutes if I can run this Graph API on the tenant and generate this data into my Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, wherever slides I would like to create it. And I can give it to user that, hey, your secure score is too low comparing with the industry, and these are the actions you have to do it. And I can guide the user or the customer to do these things then. And this is where the whole productivity can come in. Now, before I go further, let me pick up that question. So Microsoft's difference between security and compliance and security and governance. So when I talk about security, so let me come back here. So there are three things in the industry when you work with the enterprise customers. What we call that area as GRC. So that very specifically says governance, risk, and compliance. So what that means is you work in a security and you understand what security things have to happen so that your environment is secure. Now, compliance is something which says that, okay, I am running in a particular industry. My business is in a particular industry, and I have my industry regulations, and I have to meet those regulations, and that's where that becomes my compliance. And I will pick up an example which are word knowns. So, for example, if I am a company who is a healthcare company in USA, then I can use any tool to do the security. I can use any tool to be compliant with US regulation of HIPAA, which is the healthcare regulation in USA. So, and I have to make sure that if HIPAA says my customer or patient data can't be leaked, I have to define the ways in my security structure as how do I secure those personal details of a patient and they don't get leaked. If there is a leak, break the compliance, and what could be the penalties for me? Or, for example, I have to have my all the data which is for the test reports being anonymously used to present to the market or internally also. It's only the owner of that particular department can see the names with the results. So it's a compliance regulation that I have to have my anonymous data happening for my test results. So that's not security requirement that data has to be anonymous, but it's a compliance requirement. So that's where the security and compliance come. Now, the governance part is about, as this is security, this is compliance. How do I bring an umbrella on top of it that my security will keep working that way? My compliance will keep working that way to be compliant with the organization industry. And how do we make this happening on a regular basis? So I define a sort of an umbrella structure where I may define a governance team. I may define my process frameworks. I may define my models so that my company can operate with those security and compliance regulations. And that's where the governance come. I will map it back to a SharePoint governance. So SharePoint governance is generally called as how do I create my SharePoint sites, and end user can create it, but at the same time I can control as what they are doing with it. I can ask them after 3 months that, hey, you have not used your site from last 3 months, can I delete it? So that's where the governance model come into the picture. So that means how do we operate within those areas is the governance. I hope that helps you to understand the difference between security, compliance, and governance. Okay, I will wait for your answer if there is any more follow-up question. And before we close the session, this is the GitHub repo, and I have pasted this link in the PPT. So this is the github.com/Microsoft and then security API solution. Even if you go to the github.com/Microsoft Graph, you can search security and you can see all the Git repos in this. This has all the samples available to use.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. We just 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm done with the demo. And for your price, I will bring that slide up. So we have to use this session code if you like to win some more prizes. And I'm here. If you would like to jump to a different session, feel free to, but I'm here to answer if there is any follow-up questions. Lalit can help understand how we will share the PPT back to you. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure there will be a follow-up email and everything will be loaded at some shared location.
right. That will be a call that we as an organizer will be taking it. Nothing very clear right now, but I think if you can reference some of the LinkedIn's and Twitter profile so that they can reach out to you anytime, maybe for some questions or something, that would be helpful. So I'm gonna put your LinkedIn here in
Sure.
chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Feel free.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. I can thank you, Lalit, for helping me to organize this and conduct this session. And thanks everyone for joining it. I understand it's lunchtime and we have gone through the lunchtime now. So thank you once again and have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the event. And I'm here to answer any questions if there is any.
So your LinkedIn chat is here, so you can find Ashish quickly.
Thank you,
All right.
Lalit.
So yeah, I just pasted the link to the other session attendees. So please go ahead and join the session. If you have any questions, stay put, and let Ashish answer you any question if you have in the last minute here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Ashish, again for
Thank
your
you.
time. Bye.
Bye.